Welcome back to the Three Gyms Talk Hockey podcast. I'm Saul Mijas alongside Mike Cardoza and Matt Milko. Last week we were away on spring break, and this week we got a whole lot to talk about. Trade deadline was last Friday. A lot of big moves. This was probably one of the most entertaining trade deadlines in a very long time, in my opinion. So let's get right into it. I'm just going to break the seal right off the rip. I think the biggest trade that a lot of us were not really expecting, but when it happened, we weren't that surprised. Mikko Rantanen gets traded for the second time in
2 weeks.
Literally 2 weeks, not even a month. Played 13 games with Carolina, said, I don't want to be here anymore. They flipped him to Dallas. For us, that's not a bad thing. He's out of the East. He only spent 14 games in the East. But generally, I just want to get your guys' thoughts on the trade. So the full trade was Mikko Rantanen, obviously, to the Dallas Stars in exchange for 2 firsts, 2 thirds, and then the big name, Logan Stankoven. In my opinion, they got a lot more than I anticipated. But I just want to get a little bit of your guys' thoughts on that trade.
Yeah, I agree. I think they got a lot more than we all expected because we thought that they weren't going to get near the same value as what they traded to get Rantanen in the first place. But I think that has to do with them signing and trading him, or making sure, or the Stars making sure that they had him signed long term. That's probably also why they had to give up more. So that definitely played a role. But I love the haul for Carolina. I think it puts them in a limbo though, because they didn't really get to make any other moves because they're all focused on the Rantanen deal. But just solely off the deal itself, 2 first-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and a 21-year-old center that they're going to have for the next 10, 15 years, it's a pretty good return.
Yeah, overall, I think it was a win-win for both teams. Obviously, I said last time we were on the pod that I think the Stars should make this move to really make that playoff push past the Western Conference Finals. And, if you look at their team when they're fully healthy, they're going to be I don't know. I don't really see a lot of teams that can stop them. They're going to be a fun team to watch. Signing him was huge. I think it was crazy, the reports that started to come out when Rantanen arrived at the Hurricanes, and he basically mentioned right to Rob Brindamore that he said there's only 4 teams he wants to play for, and the Hurricanes weren't one of them. So it was inevitable that he was going to get dished at the deadline at that point. So to be able to get that trade haul back was definitely significant.
Yeah, no, right off the bat, you said that Rantanen goes, I have 4 teams that I want to play for, and the Carolina Hurricanes are not one of them. Aside from the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes are a contender, they're a really good team. So, number one, that surprises me. It's you're a rental. But at the same time, if the Hurricanes gave up as much as they did, I'd expect to re-sign Rantanen too. So, the fact that they weren't going to re-sign him, it was kind of known. I agree. It was almost inevitable for them to move on from him because I'd rather, look at the return that they got opposed to not getting anything.
Yeah.
And if they don't win a Stanley Cup with him, what's the point of keeping him? So it's almost just that's back-to-back years. You lose Getzel for nothing, and then you lose Rantanen for nothing. So I kind of like that move to flip him again. Yeah. I think that they got a lot in return. And then on top of it, you could use those draft picks as trade capital, and who knows, make a move in the future. The Carolina Hurricanes don't necessarily need 2 first-rounders, 2 third-rounders, so who knows what they do. But aside from that, Milks, you did call it last pod. You said that the Dallas Stars should be a team to go after Rantanen, and I completely agreed. I said if he was going to the West, he'd go to Dallas. If he was going to the East, he'd go to Florida, or at least that's what I assumed with the Matthew Tkachuk injury. Going back to what you originally said, though, Dallas is an absolute wagon when they're healthy. They have, arguably one of the best defensemen in the league hurt right now. They have other pieces of their, very important pieces of their teams hurt. And not only did they make really solid moves, kind of filling in those pieces, trading for Garland and Cody Ceci, Granlund. They already made those moves to kind of fill in those blank spots. They gave themselves extra cap room at the trade deadline, and then they make a big splash and they get Rantanen. Now, assuming everyone's healthy for the playoffs, it's kind of hard to imagine Dallas isn't the team to come out of the West. Assuming Connor Hellebuyck, once again, doesn't perform up to his standards for the Winnipeg Jets. So, overall, I absolutely love that trade. I think that was the biggest move of the deadline. I mean, I think that's agreed upon.
That's definitely safe to say.
I
yeah.
mean, very safe to say. I don't think that you see a guy like Renton getting traded often, let alone twice before the deadline in the same season.
Yeah.
So that was absolutely, I mean, that was mind-boggling. I remember when we first saw that trade, it was almost just like a mind blown. But then again, a sign and trade, we don't see those very often in the NHL. The only other one that really comes to mind is the Matty Chuck sign and trade from Calgary. So I guess we'll see how this works out. The one interesting thing that I want to point out before we move on from this trade is the fact that Renton wanted 13.5, 14 mil. He settles for 12 in Dallas, which I was very surprised about, to be completely honest. But at the same time, you look at the taxes in terms of Texas.
Yeah.
So that could have played a very big role because he could be walking away with the same amount of money with a lesser valued contract. So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that really surprised me hearing that it was an 8x12 and not an 8x13 or even 13.5.
I thought it was gonna get at least to 13. I mean, there was reports that, I mean, I know the Oilers and the Maple Leafs wanted to make big splashes for Rantanen. They ultimately couldn't get deals done, but I think both of those teams were willing to offer up 13 plus mil to try to get him in the sign and trade, but they ultimately didn't have the other assets that the Canes wanted.
I mean, the Canes were also looking to make a big splash in terms of moving Renton. I mean, they looked to dish him out to Toronto. Yeah. Imagine that. And that deal included Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner didn't want to move his no-trade clause, which, I mean, rightfully so. I mean, he has that right, and I'm not surprised. He's a Toronto Maple Leaf. I mean, who knows what happens after this year, but he's still a Leaf. He wants to make that run.
Having a career year, too.
Yeah, so that was a big, I guess, offer to the Maple Leafs that they made, or whoever made that official offer. But obviously, Mitch Marner said no cigar, and they moved on. But a trade that I think surprised all of us. I think Dallas is going to be a wagon with Ranton for the next 8 years, because that is just not a name that I expect to be moved again before that contract's over.
They also re-signed Wyatt Johnson to a 5-year deal as well,
which is
the underrated signing.
That's a really good
8.4 mil for 5 years. I think.
22-year-old center that's already almost point per game.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a bargain. That's going to be a steal. Come 5 years, he's going to get a bag. He's going to get a bag, and that's similar to what we were talking about last pod in terms of contract signings and how players should approach it. Right now, he's 21 years old. He's actually a beast.
Yeah.
He's a beast. Like you don't see him made the way that Wyatt Johnson's made, and he's thriving in Dallas. He wants to play in Dallas. They're a contender. They could very easily build a team around him and Ranton for the next 8 years. And then you have Heiskin in the back. You have Andre in net.
Yeah.
Dallas is a force to be reckoned with, and I could see him getting a lot more money after 5 years, but for the next 5 years, that's going to be one of the best contracts in the league.
I think a lot of younger players are going to take into account what Wyatt Johnson did. I think this is a genius play just for the player, as he's going to be coming off that contract in his prime, 26, 27.
He's going to get it back.
He's going to, as long as he keeps performing and like plays better, he's just going to get.
Because I'm pretty sure Dallas offered him an 8x8 and he didn't want it. I think he wanted less years on it just so he could do that. Which is
smart.
Yeah, I was going to say, number one is smart based off, I mean, just going back to what we were talking about last pod, but then again, you look at someone like Jack Hughes. He signed that long-term contract for the value that he signed it at, and he's making pretty much half of what he could be making in the league right now. So I feel like that's a really good move on Johnson. I think that's a really good signing for Dallas. But I want to get moving along with the trade deadline talk, and I just want to talk about the Bruins. Milks is your forte. Don Sweeney blew up the operation, sent everyone left and right, and the crazy part is most of those names stayed within the division.
Yeah. To be honest, I agreed with most of the decisions he made. I would say the one decision that hurt me was trading away Marchand, especially knowing he wanted to be a Bruin. They probably could have worked a deal out. I don't know all the ins and outs of what happened in those meetings that they had. I guess they really couldn't budge on a contract negotiation, but regardless, I loved that we were selling. I think it was time to sell. We were kind of stuck in this rut, and we needed picks. We need prospects. We need younger guys who can play. The Coyle trade was huge. I feel like we fleeced Avalanche with that trade. We got Middlestat, who's a young centerman who is a skill guy, which we need. We got a second rounder and Will Zellers, who is he's showing that he can be very promising the way he's playing in the USHL right now. I love that we got a first for Brandon Carlo.
I think that surprised a lot of people, but quite honestly, that didn't surprise me much.
I mean, we got Fraser Minton too, and I think maybe like a fourth or something.
Yeah.
And all we did was retain 15%. So, I mean, I feel like that was another great deal. Overall, I agree with Don Sweeney that it was time to sell. I mean, we didn't really do much until basically the end of the deadline, and then all these moves just started flying out of nowhere.
Pretty much all your moves were made on trade deadline day, which he waited till the last second, but hey, that's what the deadline's for. That's kind of what everyone looks forward to. And at the end of the day, he made a lot of very good moves. He said, you know what, it's time to blow up the operation. Let's not start from scratch. You obviously still have McAvoy, Pasta, you have Swayman in net, so you have your core pieces to build around.
It's like a moderate rebuild here.
Exactly. It's
retool.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the perfect.
They still have players that they just need to get younger, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. And I think this is the perfect play for Don Sweeney. Get some good draft picks, get some younger pieces to build around Pasta. As you can see, Pasta could still carry a team on his own. We've watched it this whole year.
I mean, he's the hottest player in hockey right now, and he's. I mean, we just beat the Panthers last night. That should not have happened.
Yeah, and especially the way that it did. But I love that word retool. That's exactly what it is. It's not a rebuild; it's a retool. They still have their core pieces. They just had to move on from certain guys, get the value that they were offered, and now it's you move forward. That's all it is. So I think all of them were smart moves, minus the Brad Marchand. I feel like that's a little bit of a killer, like you said. Aside from the fact that you lost your captain, I mean, to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Which is a little disappointing. And then on top of it, you only get a conditional second rounder in return, which could become a first rounder, but that's under the conditions. So, I mean, you retained 50% of his salary. Marchand pretty much has no effect on Florida's cap hit.
No.
And now you have the potential to see a Marchand, Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk line in the playoffs when everyone's healthy. And my God, whoever plays him in the playoffs.
I feel terrible.
Yeah.
The mental warfare that is going to be played on the other team is going to be awful.
Yeah. I mean, in a podcast that I was listening to the other day, Brady Tkachuk, obviously the brother Matthew Tkachuk, he said, he goes, I might be able to beat the crap out of my brother, but the one thing that Matty has on me is chirps. He goes, he could get under my skin, and he goes, he has a way with words that he goes, I have no idea how this stuff gets to his head, but it works. So now imagine you have three pests on one line on pretty much a Stanley Cup contending team for the next handful of years. I mean, not saying Marchand's going to be there for the next handful of years, but I'm saying Florida's very good.
Yeah.
And now you add a piece like Marchand.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I really like what the Bruins did. I think right now with the season that they're having, it's a step back, but sometimes you got to take a step back in order to take two steps forward. So I don't hate it. And I feel like the assets you guys got were very good. They were like just in the future, like you could even flip some of those picks.
I know. Honestly, for me, my biggest concern is how Don Sweeney manages the draft. Because
he also has
his first round picks that he's been drafting with the last handful of years have just not panned out, and we need to start turning our first round picks into players that can actually produce at the NHL level. Because you look at, Frederick gone, Dean Letourneau, who we drafted last year, doesn't really seem like he's making an impact at BC. I mean, you can give him more time. Johnny Beecher, I believe, was a first round pick who's playing on the fourth line, giving us not much help. Like, eventually it just comes to a point where Don Sweeney has to make a good draft decision. And that's my biggest concern. But everything else, getting younger, getting skill guys, completely agree with.
I mean, yeah, but then again, it's like I completely agree. Don Sweeney does have to be better in terms of drafting, but I feel like that also like it could be looked at as like the scouts. You know, it's like at the end of the day, it's like yes, Don Sweeney makes the final call, but you need the scouts to give you the right information. And when you're not being relayed the right information, like Don Sweeney's doing his job, but it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
So
also
it's
development.
Yeah.
Development too.
100%. It's like
Fabian Lysell, we all thought was going to be a stud. I know we talked a lot about him before Milks, but he looks like he's not going to pan out to anything
I
as
know.
well.
It's crazy.
yeah.
I mean, he's still young, so you can still give him time, but he's just not. He's not getting better. That's the
Yeah.
thing. He's just staying at like a point per game in the AHL.
Yeah, I mean, which isn't terrible at the end of the day, but like we said, you need that development. You need players to start stepping up, hitting the big squad, and kind of producing there too. But moving right on to another Eastern Conference team, we went from one favorite team, we're going to another favorite team, the Rangers. Use the word retool for the Bruins. I don't even think the Rangers are necessarily retooling. They're more of just shaping up their roster. They've made a lot of moves throughout the year. I think that what they did at the deadline was absolutely brilliant. They moved certain contracts. They brought some guys in to kind of mesh their roster, keep it intact, and at the same time, they're still pushing for a wild card spot. So they weren't necessarily selling, but they got rid of certain players on expiring contracts. They got what they could in return, and at the same time, they kind of intermingled what they had with what they got, and now they're going full steam ahead. They're trying to make a push, and the Rangers really have been playing some good hockey as of late. So I don't hate what they did.
They have before the trade deadline. They kind of slowed down now a little bit, but I do really like what the Rangers did at the trade deadline. Like I knew they weren't gonna go crazy, but they have made the crazy moves earlier by picking up JT Miller, trading away Filipino, but they had a lot of UFAs that they were gonna leave or sign for bigger contracts than they should have. And the Rangers knew they weren't going to sign him, so they traded them away for something. They traded away Lindgren, who is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And they got 2 NHL players and a couple picks for him. Juuso Parssinen is a fine third liner. The Rangers needed help on the forward depth, especially the Kreider struggling this year. A bunch of their young guys not really developing. They needed more depth. And I like the moves that Jerry made. He wasn't going to go out and make another big splash. He already did that. And go make a push. Make the playoffs. I don't expect the Rangers to do anything in the playoffs. Maybe win a sneaky round or so, but there's nothing really more you could do. Ask for a Ranger fan or do as a Ranger fan. I didn't want them to tank. If they tanked, they would have got they don't even have their first round pick this year, so what's the point in that? Might as well go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes back to what you said. It's all right, they're not necessarily at the contention that they were expected to be at last year. Obviously, last year, the previous couple years, honestly, they were expected to make big splashes in the playoffs. This year, obviously, that month and a half span that they had really hurt them. But it's gotten to the point where you're still in the race to make the playoffs. You still have a chance to. I mean, listen. At the end of the day, I mean, it's Lou Lamoriello logic. As an Islander fan, I hate it, but it's the truth. Get in the playoffs, and it's anyone's game.
Yeah.
Look at what happened.
When you got the best goalie in the league, or one of the best goalies in the league.
Yeah, it's like at the end of the day, it's like look at what happened with Florida a couple seasons ago. Upset the Bruins, who had the best regular season of all time, made the finals. Obviously, didn't win, but they reshaped their team in the offseason, a little nitpicky stuff, and then next thing you know, they win a cup.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, that's kind of what you got to do sometimes. It goes back to what we said. Sometimes you got to take a step back to move forward, and I feel like that's kind of what happened with the Rangers, which is more than okay. At the end of the day, it's get in the playoffs and it's anyone's game. So, like you said, they might win a sneaky round. They might win 2 sneaky rounds. They might get swept, but at the end of the day, they get there and it's anyone's ball game. So, I like what the Rangers did. Like you said, they got rid of certain contracts. I like that they flipped Riley Smith. The Golden Knights received one of the original Misfits back, which I think is huge. I think certain guys thrive where they originally played well. It's just what's the word I'm looking for? It's a comfortability thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that move. Obviously, it wasn't panning out in New York. So
yeah,
instead of instead of kind of like wasting the rest of the season, you got whatever you got for Riley Smith, and I like that.
I like the picks that you guys got for Riley Smith and Lindgren. I know you got a third for Riley Smith, which I thought was a little high, but that's still good.
Than I expected.
And Lindgren too. Did you get a second for Lindgren?
The full trade was Lindgren. We got Parsonen and Calvin DeHaan plus a second and a fourth round.
Yeah, I mean those are good picks. Yeah. So
and then for Riley Smith, we got a third, and Brendan Brisson, who's kind of just a random AHL guy that could be a depth piece at the NHL level.
So
and a third round pick, which we instantly flipped.
I think you guys won most of those trades. Yeah.
I mean, and even if you don't consider them wins, they definitely didn't lose them. So it's no hurt trades.
Yeah, fair trades.
I was gonna say it's a no lose for either team involved in the trades, to be completely honest. But we went from one team, the Bruins, we went to the Rangers. Now I want to talk about the Islanders. Obviously, they got rid of Brock Nelson. Two big names that were on the table: Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri. I said, I love Brock Nelson, fan favorite, a guy that he's gonna be in the Islanders Hall of Fame. One day. I don't know when, but one day he will be. He's an all-time Islander. But I said it, you got to move on from him. You got to start reshaping this team a little bit.
Yeah.
And what the Islanders got in return for Brock Nelson, I feel like Lou Lamoriello worked wonders. If he was to make one move, I'm happy that it was this move. He said that he was going to move Kyle Palmieri if the price was right, if he got his asking price. From what I read, he was offered a second-round pick, and I want to say a mediocre prospect for Palmieri, but that was not the asking price, so Kyle Palmieri is still an Islander. But the full trade with the Avalanche was Brock Nelson, William Dufour, and then the Islanders got Oliver Killington, who they flipped right away to Anaheim. Then they got Callum Ritchie, a first-rounder, and a third-rounder. Callum Ritchie is a stud. It goes back to what Milks was saying with the Bruins. The Islanders are in the same position in terms of prospects. They don't have much prospect depth. I've been saying this. Careers go to die in Bridgeport. The Bridgeport Islanders are absolutely atrocious. They're probably one of the worst professional hockey teams in North America. But with that being said, Callum Ritchie is a 1A, 1B type prospect with Cole Eiserman. He's tearing it up in the OHL. He has one career NHL goal, and who's that against the Islanders earlier this year. So he has 7 games under his belt at the NHL level. Got sent back down to junior so that he doesn't burn a year of his entry-level contract. But right now, in 43 games in the OHL, he has 68 points. Not bad. Looking at what the Islanders have right now in their prospect pool versus what they got, I think Lou Lamoriello really worked wonders. I don't know if you guys have much to add in terms of that trade, but I think that the Islanders got a lot more than I was expecting. Not a lot more, but they got more than I was expecting. I expected a first-rounder and a prospect, but kind of like the little nitpicky stuff, add William Dufour, get a little bit more. I like that. William Dufour, we not necessarily never gave him a shot, but we never really gave him a true shot. He was good in juniors, but it goes back to what I said. I feel like development in Bridgeport is not what it should be or what it could be. So players go there and they don't develop. They don't become into what they should. And I feel like that's just been an ongoing theme with the Islanders. So I say keep Callum Ritchie, or obviously Callum Ritchie's going to be in juniors the rest of this year. Him and Eisman should just skip minors altogether. Don't even send him there. Right up to the big squad. But all in all, I feel like the Bruins, Islanders, and the Rangers all made very solid trades, all of which helping their teams. They obviously moved players. They did what they had to do. And I don't see a lose for either three of our really favorite teams. So moving on, a team that really made a really big splash that I really, really liked, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
They're going to be dangerous.
The Tampa Bay Lightning made moves that I don't think many people were expecting. They got back a 2-time Cup champ with them, and Yanni Gourde. Yanni Gourde's a proven playoff performer. He's a proven Tampa Bay stud.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, they got Oliver Bjorkstrand, who's a 30-goal scorer in the league with Columbus. I feel like he's a very good bottom six, at least on Tampa. I feel like he's a good middle six on most NHL teams, but it's specific to Tampa. He's a good bottom six. And yeah, they might have given up a lot, but it's now or never. I mean, okay, yeah, Tampa's been winning, but I like their moves in terms of they're doing what they have to stay competitive. Right now, in the draft, they don't have much capital.
They don't even need it though. There's
I mean, they don't need it, but at the same time, I don't think that they have a first round pick for the next couple years.
Well, they
Yeah.
just traded their 26
Yeah.
and 27
Yeah.
first round picks
So-
for Yanni Gordon.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like right now it's an all in situation for Tampa, which once again I don't hate. They're still competitive. Don't look at it as they won a couple cups. I mean, at this point, it's going to be half a decade ago in 2020 and 21. They made 3 straight cups. They're still contenders. They're not slowing down.
I mean, they could win the Atlantic. They're only two wins behind first place.
Well, the Atlantic right now is so wide open. It's
I know.
it's
So,
anyone's. It's anyone's.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
conference.
This was probably my favorite.
division.
This was probably my favorite trade of the deadline. I loved when Yanni Gord played on the Lightning when they had that cup run. I think he fits their team perfectly. And going into playoffs, they're not gonna be a fun team to play against. I mean, I would really like to watch them play the Leafs in the first round and then eventually go play the Panthers. But no matter how this Atlantic division shapes out to be, I think it's Tampa Bay or Florida that's gonna come out on top from there. They're gonna be 2 very fun teams to watch in the playoffs. They're gonna be explosive and physical, and yeah, they had to give up a lot, like you said, but I think it was totally worth it. And when you have a guy that can lead like Hedman and Kucherov in the playoffs, they're going to be able to get these guys to push to another level. And I mean, I kind of just feel bad for the Leafs at this point. I feel like
Well, I feel bad for the Leafs too, but that I was actually just about to bring up the Leafs and say, like, now imagine going back to the Mikko Rantanen trade. Florida gets Marchand.
Yeah.
Tampa makes a splash, and now imagine if Toronto somehow, some way, made a splash with Rantanen. That would have been the top 3 teams in the Atlantic right now, all making superstar splashes. And all right, Yanni Gord might not be considered a superstar in the league, but he's very, very close to it. If you know hockey and you've been watching the Tampa Bay Lightning the way that kind of we have, they've been tormenting, at least the Islanders, they've been tormenting them in the playoffs when they play. And Yanni Gord is a big reason for that.
I'd say he's one of the best role forwards in the game.
And that's what it comes down to. He knows his role. He does what's asked of him, and that's what you need at the NHL level. You don't need everyone to be 100-point scorers. You don't need everyone to be a top 6 forward. You're gonna need guys that play a gritty game, and what Yanni Gord is asked to do is what he ends up doing. And I think the Atlantic, like you said, is wide open, but that's gonna be a dogfight because then you also have a team like Ottawa who's hot right now. They're on a 4-game win streak. They find themselves in a playoff position for the first time since 2017. Not necessarily saying they're going to be a top 3 team in the Atlantic come season's end, but right now they're projected to face the first team in the Atlantic come playoff time. So whoever that may be, whether that's Florida, Toronto, or Tampa, they have a very, very steep hill to climb.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens, I think that, I mean, the Lightning may have made the most underrated move of the deadline in bringing Yanni Gord back and then obtaining Bjorkstrand, who's a solid player through and through. That's just...
Yeah. And just devil's advocate a little bit here, but Seattle Kraken got a great return.
They did.
We're saying this is amazing for Lightning and for their playoff push and for the Atlantic, the wide open Atlantic. Seattle Kraken got a great return for Yanni Gord and Oliver Bjorkstrand, who I don't know what their contracts are like. I don't know if they're free agents or not, but getting 2 first-round picks for 2 players that you're probably not going to be around for a while, you're not in a playoff spot for a little bit, like, that is a great return to just get younger players and develop your team.
I do believe that Yanni Gord's under contract for a few more years, but they also retained half his salary. So I think it works out pretty well for both sides.
Yeah, and it's not like Seattle's like up against
Yeah,
the
they're
cap
not
or
against the
anything
cap
right
at all.
now.
No.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. Bjorkstrand signed, after this year, he signed for next season as well. And then Yanni Gord, is an unrestricted free agent after this year.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but both cap hits are not. I mean, all right. Bjorkstrand has a $5.4 million cap hit, including next year. Yanni Gord's obviously an unrestricted free agent, but his cap hit's only 1.3 mil.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So, I mean, Tampa knows how to work their way around the cap. That's like kind of been a known thing. I feel like that's where Vegas took it from. But like you said, Seattle got a very good return. I feel like that is something that isn't spoken about enough. And that's shown right here because I feel like everyone talks about the players and not everyone really talks about the returns a lot. But Seattle did put themselves in a good position giving up what they gave up. But I kind of want to go into a team that didn't make a move that I feel like a lot of people expected in the Vancouver Canucks. Not a lot was being spoken about in terms of Brock Besser getting moved or Elias Pettersson, which I don't feel like a lot of people expected Pettersson to get moved, but people were not expecting, but it wouldn't have been a surprise if Besser got moved. With that being said, do you guys think Besser should have gotten moved?
Yes. I personally, I think the Canucks had the worst deadline. Honestly, they might be putting themselves... I always thought, like, in a biased way, but also not a biased way, I always thought the Islanders were going to be in a terrible position for the next 5 years. The way that the Canucks have been, I don't know, the last couple of years, I don't know, I feel like they might be putting themselves in a really bad position. Not moving on from Brock Besser. I heard that their trades weren't good enough for him, but he's a UFA at the end of the year. He wants $8 million. I don't think the Canucks are going to re-sign him. You might as well get something for him. Like, you definitely could have got at least a second-round pick and at least
Minimum.
a prospect. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the Canucks are just, like, unless Pettersson comes back next year and is a whole new man, I don't think the Canucks are going to be any sort of good for a while. Like, they got rid of JT Miller, Bo Horvat a couple years before that. They got Quinn Hughes still. Thatcher Demko coming off the injury doesn't look like his normal self.
Yeah, but you brought up Quinn Hughes, not to cut you off, but Quinn Hughes also made it publicly known if Vancouver's looking to rebuild, he wants no part of it. So now you're at risk of being bad, and then on top of it, losing your franchise player.
Yeah.
So I completely agree. I think Vancouver's digging themselves a hole. I feel like a lot of people are looking at Vancouver in the season that they had last year, and they're like, oh, this team should be good. People forget, okay, Vancouver had a really good year last year, but that was also a Cinderella story. Yeah. Most people didn't even have Vancouver making the playoffs last year, and they were at the top of the league. So I feel like there's a lot that Vancouver could have done. Like you said, get something rather than nothing. If Besser walks and they lose him for nothing, that's like...
And he's, other than Marner and Rantanen, he's probably going to be the hottest commodity at free agent forward.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and Nelson, I don't think Nelson's re-signing in Colorado, but, but he's a top 5 name in the free agency market come the offseason. So I feel like the smart move would have been to move on, especially looking at the direction that your team's going. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think they definitely shot themselves in the foot there because it really doesn't seem like they want to give him if they wanted to give him the money to re-sign him, they would have by now, I feel like. So you might like you guys mentioned it before, you might as well get some sort of return for him. It's not like no one sees this team going anywhere, even if they do somehow make the playoffs. So you're kind of just hurting yourself. And ultimately, I think it's time for them to start retooling or maybe even just rebuilding at that point.
Yeah, but that goes back to what I said. It's if you start rebuilding, Quinn Hughes said, I don't want to be a part of a rebuild here. So what are you going to do? You're going to rebuild and you're going to lose someone like Quinn Hughes?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. They're in a very, very bad spot right now.
Yeah.
Because if you rebuild, you're losing Quinn Hughes, but at the same time, if you're not competitive, you still might, again, lose Quinn Hughes. So it's like it's a real lose-lose situation, especially getting rid of JT Miller with everything going on with Elias Pettersson. It's like, all right, obviously Pettersson's under contract. If he comes back next year and he kind of flips the script from what it was this year, you might be looking at something different.
I mean, it's also not like they can't afford Besser. They just got rid of JT Miller's contract, so they can definitely afford him.
I mean, Yeah, like right now they have 15 mil.
So
So-
I don't understand what that move is there.
Yeah, I mean,
What their plan is there if they haven't, because I feel like his price tag is going to go way up if he actually just hits the open market. So
yeah, which is why I'm not surprised, but which is why I was very intrigued to see what happens with Rantanen if he hits the open market.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what his market value would have been in free agency, and I feel like we're gonna see that with Mitch Marner, and I feel like Marner and Rantanen are comparables, which I'm very excited to kind of see what happens because, like you said, I feel like they could get him at cheaper than what his market value is just because he's already a Canuck, but that's a team that's not really heading in the right direction. But now I kind of want to talk about a team that's the equivalent of the Canucks of last year in the Capitals. Washington Capitals this year are best team in the East, and I'm not really sure who noted this, but a very good point right now. The Capitals are at the top of the East. They made very minimal moves this this trade deadline, and if they're all in, I mean, right now this is a perfect opportunity for the Caps to go all in. I feel like Ovi's out of here after next year. If you want to make one more run, you should have made a splash. You should have done something.
That's what I'm saying.
And I don't feel like the Capitals did much of anything. They definitely didn't make any big moves, so I feel like that was kind of interesting, which is something that I didn't really think about until I saw it in our little doc when we were planning the episode. That's just something that's not really the worst thing in the world, but at the same time, make a splash, do something, because this might be one of the last years in like maybe the next half decade that you have a chance at a playoff run, or at least until Ryan Leonard and Cole Hudson kind of make their presence known in the NHL, which could be as soon as next year. But then again, you don't expect players like that to kind of show up and make those big.
Just immediately dominate.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like you look at players like Celebrini and Bedard, even Will Smith. They're on terrible teams. They're performing, but hockey's not a one-man show. So that's kind of interesting to see what happens. But kind of sticking on the topic of the Capitals, I kind of want to move on from the trade deadline and get right to the Great Chase. We are less than 10 goals away from witnessing history. I feel like every time the Capitals are playing, all eyes are on number 8, rightfully so. But what an eventful year for Alex Ovechkin. He broke his leg, came back, and is about to break Gretzky's all-time goals record in less games. That's crazy. The Russian machine never breaks. So it's more or less like, does it happen this year? I personally think it does. But what do you guys think? I mean, nine goals away, we got, I don't know.
A little less than 20 games.
I was gonna say in the 15-20 game range.
Yeah.
So
I hope he does it. I really do. Like yesterday, he should have. He's such a team guy. He had another empty net chance to get closer to the record, and he gives it up to his teammate to get his first career hat trick. Like, I love Ovi. He's like, every time I see clips of him, he gets me fired up. Like, he's like you said, he's just a Russian machine. You can't hate the guy.
yeah,
Like,
Speaking of that, every time you see him, he's always smiling.
Yeah.
I never see that guy upset.
listen, he has fun. And like that's why he's been as successful throughout his career as he is. The same way that we get on the ice and we enjoy playing. Now imagine making millions. Imagine being one of the best goal scorer of all time and having that same amount of fun. It's you like Dozer, you said, like you can't hate the guy. Like he's tormented all three of our teams his entire career. Yet you look at players like Ovi, you look at players like Sid, you look at players like Malkin, and it's these guys are all-time greats. Yes, you don't like playing against them, but you look at them, it's like you have a certain level of respect for these players, and you can't hate them.
yeah.
These are generational players that the same way that kids now are growing up kids grew up watching McDavid and Matthews, and now younger kids now are watching Bedard and Celebrini. Those Crosbys, Ovechkins, Patty Kanes, those were our versions of those players.
Yeah, they set the face of the NHL for us, and I mean that's just going to continue the with every sport, there's always going to be those faces of the franchise or the faces of the league, and I mean, everyone has to leave the league at some point, but I mean, this guy's still scoring 30 goals in a season. So
which is what I think is crazy because he's 39 years old.
And I mean, he absolutely could break the record this year. I mean, I wouldn't put anything past him at this point, considering he literally broke his leg earlier in the season.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and now he has 34 goals on the season.
He has 33 goals in 49 games.
Yeah,
I mean that's absurd. Like in Gretzky's last season in the NHL, he had 9 goals. He's out here just trucking through Gretzky's production at his age, which, I mean, obviously he's playing for something, but now you kind of look at it and you're just like, after next year, what does OV do? Like, a lot of people are saying he's out of the league after next year. He's going to go play in Moscow, and he's going to call it a career.
Yeah.
I could see that happening, but then again, it brings you to the reality of, damn, like all these players that we kind of grew up watching are slowly starting to retire. Like Carey Price, we haven't seen him in the league for a number of years. All-time great. Henrik Lundqvist, retired. Like, you got certain guys that you grew up watching, idolizing, whether you loved them or hate them in terms of like what team they played for. These are guys that you're going to look at in the back and be like, wow, like I had a chance to experience and watch these guys play. Like in our old age, we're going to look back at Ovi and be like, damn,
yeah,
like
Ovi and Crosby are going to be top 10 players all time.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean,
all said and done.
They could I mean, I heard this somewhere, but they were talking about Mount Rushmore players in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
You could easily make the argument that you could fit them on there, or at least like chisel another face up there with them.
That's a good point because I saw the same thing. It was obviously Gretzky, Lemieux,
Orr,
Howe, and Orr. Those were the 4 that they had. And now everyone's saying like, you could even put an argument for a Yager, but it's like now you have guys like Crosby and Ovi. It's just like, damn, like you might have to start carving a few more faces because there's certain names you can't take off Mount Rushmore of hockey.
And they both have their certain thing too. Like Crosby's been the face of Canada for 20 years. That's why I could see him being on the Mount Rushmore and like being a top 5 player of all time.
And he's a winner. On top of it,
like you look at all of his accomplishments, he's won so many golds with Canada. He's won 3 Stanley Cups with the Penguins. Like, what else can the guy do?
I mean, he's literally won everything you could win in hockey, and he does it all with a C on his chest.
Yes. Also, another Gretzky record. I know me and Melks were talking about it before. I think it got brought up on like Spin Chicklets or something. But Crosby, if he finished this year point per game, he's the first player ever to go 20 straight seasons point per game.
Yeah,
beating
he
Gretzky
has
for 19 seasons.
Yeah, he has never had a season where he's been under a point per game.
Which
ever.
is wild, especially how much better hockey is now and how much more skilled it is now than it was way back when Gretzky was playing.
Yeah, see, like that's a stat that I knew and I follow every single year just because of how impressive it is. You kind of look at it and it's just like, all right, he's a few points over a point per game, but then you sit back and you think about it, it's just like, he's been doing this for 2 decades.
Yeah.
2 decades. Like, I mean, you turned 22 yesterday, you're 22. Like, we've been alive for 20 years, and he's been dominating the league for just about our entire lifetimes. Like, I can't manage to get a point per game in the ACHA, and this guy is doing it at the highest stage. Like, that's sick. Yeah. No matter how you look at it. And then going back to Ovi, he's the single leading Russian point scorer of all time. No Russian has ever hit 1,600 points. He's the first. Now, think about the names that have come out of Russia. It's a lot of really, really good names. And now, Ovi, I mean, is just clear-cut one.
Yeah.
There is no argument. There is no nothing. He's going to be the first Russian in the top 10 in points. I could almost guarantee that. Crosby's at 9 all-time. Ovi's at 11th all-time. Ovi and Crosby are both going to be top 10 in points. And looking back at their careers, it's just like, we are so beyond lucky to have experienced them, and we still have a chance to experience them. Like it's not over yet, but it's just like you kind of look back and it's just like, wow. Like I remember the first time I watched Crosby and Ovi play in person, And it's like it doesn't set in. And then you look at him at 30, whatever, 9 years old. Crosby's 37. It's like you look at him, it's just like, damn, these guys are still doing what they've been doing since they were teenagers, and just tormenting the league. But going off that tormenting the league comment, you got another guy like Nathan McKinnon, another guy who's obviously been a superstar since he came into the league, but he's been absolutely dominating the last few years at least. Just achieved his third straight 100-point season. First player to hit 100 points this NHL season. But on top of that, he reached the 1,000-point milestone. Not a lot of guys do that. To put it into perspective, Nathan McKinnon was the 100th player all time to ever hit 1,000 points. You look back at how many players have actually played in the NHL, 1,000 points, it really didn't set into me until I heard McDavid was the 99th player to ever hit 1,000 and McKinnon was the 100th. That's when it really sat into me, which is like what 1,000 points means in the NHL. Like, I think we take it for granted in terms of like watching some of these guys play, because like someone like McKinnon or McDavid, it's even someone like Cale Makar, like a defenseman. What was he? One of the fastest defensemen to ever reach 400 points, and he did it in like 370 something games or whatever the exact number was. Point being, we sit and we watch these guys, and we don't process how talented these guys truly are. And it's one of the beauties of the sport. Like, we talk about Pasternak, for example, how good he is. It's like, I feel like these guys are a step above that.
Well, you have to think about it, like, just how hard it is to even make it to the NHL, and then how much harder it is to be the best player on your team, and then you take it a step above that, and you're a top 5 player in the league. So, I mean, these guys obviously train like nobody else. Their skill sets are so adaptable, and their hockey IQ is through the roof. So, the amount of work that they put in to reach the caliber of a player they are, I personally can't relate to, or else I'd probably be in the Chell, which would be sick. But, yeah, I mean, never mind hit 1,000 points, but even to just get a point in the NHL, I can't imagine is that hard. So, I mean, yeah, he's a generational player.
Yeah.
He already won a cup, too.
Yeah.
Could win another one this year with the team they have,
Definitely
too.
could.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you look at the Avalanche, it's like one thing, I mean, I just think, especially us having played the game, understanding the game the way that we do, it's obviously defense wins championships, but when you have the center depth that the Colorado Avalanche have right now, on top of the defensemen, and then they've been getting solid goaltending since they just retooled their entire goaltending tandem mid-season. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be between them and Dallas.
Well, what's scary is they might play first round.
That's what I'm saying.
If they play first round, are we kidding?
Well, right now they're on pace to play each other first round.
I know, yeah.
But okay,
I hate that too, by the way.
I was going to say, let's kind of turn the topic a little bit. I feel like that is something that has to get changed, the playoff format.
I agree.
Because you have a Dallas versus Colorado potential first round, and that should be the Western Conference Final.
No, you could argue the Knights in there too.
No, you could argue a lot of teams, but I'm saying like you're seeing a potential Western Conference Final in the first round.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is
the same thing if in the Atlantic you get the Lightning and the Panthers playing in the first
well,
round.
listen, in the Atlantic you're gonna get a sick matchup one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter who it is, like those top 3 teams, I feel like they're all locks. I don't think Ottawa's catching any of them.
They're all like franchise mode teams. Like it's just superstar stacked.
Yeah,
I also think the format should change because I feel like these teams play each other in the playoffs every single year. I mean, I also get why the NHL kind of wants to do that. It kind of creates more rivalries. Like, look at the Boston Panthers rivalry over the last, 3 years.
Yeah.
It was nothing before they beat them in the first round, ruining their unbelievable season. but like still, for a fan, it kind of gets old watching the Rangers play the Penguins and the Capitals every single year.
Yeah, and like the Leafs losing to the Bruins every year.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Especially if he's a Leafs fan, yeah. But like it pushes rivalries, I get it, but I rather it go back to the 1-8 system and we see some different matchups, some more matchups down the road that we want to see instead of maybe
Getting them out of the way.
Yeah.
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 I completely agree. I think that's something that it has to get reshaped, like through and through. I feel like it was okay for a while. Like I didn't have many complaints about it, but it goes back to what you said, Doze. It's now you see the same teams constantly playing each other. If you're not the best team in your division, but you're a solid second, third place team, if you have two of those teams, for example, Toronto and Tampa, you're going to see each other in the playoffs more often than not, because what are the chances one of you guys wins the division, and what are the chances that one of you guys are a wild card team?
Yeah.
So it's like
the last 3 years, I would love to see a Rangers-Bruins
That would be
playoff
sick.
series, but the only way it happens is
Conference
if they
final.
each come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually kind of have a question to pose that I don't know if you guys would like. What would you guys think if the NHL threw a play-in tournament type thing like the NBA into the NHL?
And meaning, like, okay, so now I have a question just for, like, to clarify. You have 16 teams making the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Are you?
I think it would add another.
Are you talking about adding teams, or are you talking like top 8 get a freebie?
No. I think it would add more teams into the playoff run.
I feel like, I mean, you're already at 16 of 32 teams to make the playoffs. That's half the league. You know, it's like at the end of the day, like winning okay, like I understand the thought process, but in my head, it's like you have to earn to make the playoffs. You know, it's like if you didn't earn a spot in the playoffs after an 82 game season, you don't deserve to be there. You shouldn't be given an extra shot just cause.
I have a thought on this. I think the only idea that I kind of like thought of and I like is maybe adding 2 more wild card teams for each, but not add them into the playoffs. Just make them like battle out for the last 2 wild card seeds. Like if that. Like if
Also like 4 wild card teams.
Yes, but if you're the first wild card seed, obviously you get an advantage because you finished first. Like like if you play the 1-4 like
1-4-2-3 wild card.
And what would the series be? Out of 3? Would it be a
I'm
one
saying
and done?
It's a one and done.
Single elimination.
A single elimination, but not for the 2 teams that already have it. Like say if it's 1-4, if the first seed beats the 4 seed,
the 4 seed's done.
The 4 seed's done. But if the 4 seed beats the 1 seed, the 1 seed's not done. Like they'll have another chance to play the loser of the other game or whatever. Like
okay.
like sort of like that.
So then how would? Yeah, I don't want to get
Like,
too picky with
it's
it,
not
but
too picky. But one other thing another rule change that I would love to see is for the NHL to go to the point system that the World not the World Juniors.
Oh,
World
the 4
Cup
the
uses.
3-2-1-0.
The 3-2. I've been wanting that for years. I hate the fact that like I keep bringing up the Islanders, but a couple of years ago the Islanders
Last year
the Caps too.
I was gonna say
They
last
had,
year the
like,
Islanders and the
12
Bruins had
overtime
the Islanders and the Bruins both had I think like 16 overtime
no,
losses.
yeah, the
last
Bruins
year.
had a lot of OT
Yeah.
Which
wins
is like
or
the
losses
reason,
too.
like they had a worse like winning percentage than teams, but still made it to the playoffs over teams just because
Yeah.
they made it to the overtime and lost to it.
I mean, just on that topic, you already this year alone, you already have 4 teams that have 10 or more overtime losses.
Yeah.
And then you have another 3 that have 9. So it's like you're right. Those like for example, having 10 overtime losses, that's equivalent of 5 wins.
Yeah.
So it's like that does damage. I mean, look, for example, you brought up the Islanders. Like, it's the truth. The Islanders were the 3rd team in the Metro last year. They had no business being the 3rd team in the Metro. None. And it showed, obviously, getting absolutely dominated in the first round of the playoffs. But at the end of the day, I love the 3-2, the 3-2-1-0 playoff, or the point system. And it kind of showed in the 4 nations.
Yeah.
Like, Sweden, for example, they lost 2 overtime games. And that ultimately hurt them.
Yeah. They still needed to win.
Yeah, which I like that. Which, I mean, the NHL could like switch up a lot of things to kind of.
I'm gonna have to call Gary Bettman and fucking spew his ear
Tell
off.
him to watch the podcast.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I mean, generally the NHL, like, I didn't have a lot of complaints regarding the playoff system and how everything works out, but it's like kind of talking about it. The NHL could do so much different. Like I've been saying it for the last like few seasons now. It's like the 1-8 system that should be a given. Like there's no reason to have certain matchups, but at the end of the day, like it kind of is what it is. Kind of something out of our control, but something that obviously we like to talk about. It's all hypotheticals. It's all kind of like what can make the league more fun? What can make it better? It's like, for example, you look at the NBA. They don't have a point or like points the way that the NHL does. They're based pretty much strictly off what winning percentage.
I think it's just wins and losses.
Yeah.
Points, but there's no like overtime points.
Yeah.
As opposed to overtime.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like a sport like hockey, the 3-2-1-0 system, that's what it should be like, and that's what it is in a lot of leagues, and I feel like it works, and that's something that the NHL should try out. But I just also feel like the NHL is kind of scared to mess around and kind of see what happens with those situations. But
right now it's kind of the best time because there's so much news buzzing around the NHL after Four Nations. You have the Great Chase. Like there's so much. What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, there's so much hype behind the sport right now, and playoff hockey might be the most fun sport. I would argue maybe playoff baseball, but playoff, like the Stanley Cup run is probably the most entertaining playoff run in sports. I think it's the highest intensity sport when it comes to the playoffs as well. So I mean, if you can switch it up and get new matchups against you see a guy like, I don't know, you could put Barkov playing against Brady Tkachuk. Like that's a fun matchup.
Yeah.
And it's better than watching the Panthers bounce the Leafs again. So I don't know. Bettman can make a lot of decisions. So
no, yeah, I mean there's so much that could be done, but it's all hypotheticals. Like if we had the upper hand to like make certain changes, like you bet I'd be the first one to hop in there and propose them, but it's all hypotheticals. Gary Bettman's going to do what he thinks is best, but at the end of the day, he's the longest tenured commissioner in North American sports ever, and I think we have him for another few years. So
yeah, I'm not saying he's done a bad job.
No. He definitely hasn't.
He's definitely grown on me. I used to think he was very bad commissioner.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, I like what he's been doing.
100%.
These are just minor tweaks that we would like to see.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, nothing. No diss to Gary Bettman. I feel like, especially with the Four Nations right now, like he put hockey on the map. Like I was talking in one of my classes yesterday, and we were just kind of talking about like the biggest sports in America in general. And we were saying how like obviously football is up there, basketball, baseball, like those sports. And I kind of raised my hand. I was like, yeah, like what about hockey? Like we can't keep forgetting about hockey. Like look at all the hype that the Four Nations surrounded. Like everyone was invested. It's like the playoffs. It's like I feel like everyone's watching playoff hockey now. So the game's growing, and I think with the growth of the game, you kind of got to make minor tweaks where it's needed. But in terms of growth of the sport of hockey, I kind of want to talk about our D1 teams a little bit. Both our D1 teams are tearing it up. Our women's team just won the NUHA conference for the first time since 2018. They're going to the NCAA tournament for the first time ever, which is sick. Yeah. I feel like that's like same thing as our women's basketball team going to March Madness for the last 2 years. Like you kind of don't realize it until it happens. It's like, wow, like all right, Sacred Heart's putting their names on the map. Like I like that direction that we're going in. But they beat LIU 4-2 on Saturday night on Long Island at Northwell Health. Me and Dozer were pretty familiar with that place, so it was nice. It was nice to see the girls come on top. Paige McNeil scored. Grayson Lime, sorry if I mispronounced that. Isabella Chaput and Ella Holm scored the 4 goals for the Pioneers. And I'm just going to note that 2 of them were on the power play. Special teams obviously plays a big role in hockey, but proved to be the case in the championship game. And now the girls are currently in Ithaca, New York. They're at Cornell, or they'll be playing at Cornell's arena, facing Minnesota Duluth tomorrow in round 1 of the NCAA tournament. If they come out victorious, they play Cornell. So one way, I was gonna say one way or another, that's what happens when you make the dance. Yeah. You don't play any small schools. You get the big time get the big time opponents. So wish them the best. I hope that they make some kind of run, because at the end of the day, they're already putting their name out there. So you might as well just keep that run going and try to do something.
Bring her home.
Yep. And then on the other side, our men's team, they are currently in the AHA playoffs, the Atlantic Hockey America tournament. They just played in their quarterfinal round best of 3 against Air Force this past weekend. They won that best of 3, 2-1. Aside from the fact that their 2 wins were 4-1 victories, they played 2 solid games. That one loss that they had wasn't even. I feel like it was a step back in terms of it could have discouraged them in many ways. They lost 3-2 in double overtime.
Yeah.
So that made game 3. The legs were a little heavy. You come off of a tough loss, but the boys rallied. They did what they had to do. Air Force. I mean, me and you, Milko, we went to the game for a little bit for the last little bit of the third period, and Air Force was on their heels. They pulled the goalie twice.
They started pulling their goalie with 6 minutes left in the third.
Yeah, they pulled their goalie left with 5 minutes left, 6 minutes left. We scored, made it 3-0, and then
we just kind of kept
what?
Putting it on them.
Yeah, I was gonna say with 3 minutes left, they pulled the goalie again. We scored another empty netter. So Air Force did what they had to do. It obviously didn't pan out, but at the end of the day, it works in our favor. No complaints. Yeah. Keep your goalie out. Give us the free goals, some insurance. But they are back at home this weekend playing Bentley in the semifinals. Another best of 3 series. They're playing Friday, Saturday. If needed, they're gonna play game 3 on Sunday. So another huge congrats to the series victory to the boys, and a major good luck for this weekend, because Bentley's no easy opponent, and it'd be awesome to see both of our D1 teams win the conference in our last year.
I think we beat them earlier this year, no?
Bentley, we beat them 2-0 in our last regular season game.
So, Bentley's going to come out hot.
Yeah, I mean,
gotta be ready.
It's good that they're home too. It definitely gives us an advantage.
No,
I bet you we'll be showing face at one or maybe all of the games.
I mean, I'll probably be working the 2 games on Friday, Saturday, so I'll definitely be there. But yeah, no, we're gonna have some good hockey to watch this weekend. The guys are actually 1-2 against Bentley this year. They lost 4-2 and 6-4 in early November.
Okay.
And then their last game of the regular season, they beat them 2-0 on their senior night at home.
All close games. All close games.
So it's anyone's game, but hey, home ice advantage. Yeah. Home ice advantage. Do exactly what it says. Take advantage of home ice and march on to the finals and do what you got to do. But with that being said, we're wrapping it up over here. That's episode 4 of 3 Gyms Talk Hockey. Once again, I'm Salam Mijas alongside Michael Cardoza and Matt Milko. See you guys next week.